to like and subscribe for more videos like this.
Let's relax. Let's read. This installment is called How It Works, from projectgutenberg.org. How it works? Dealing in simple language with steam, electricity, light, heat, sound, hydraulics, optics, etc., and with their applications to apparatus and common use, by Archibald Williams. We're going to focus on the first chapter, on steam engines. How it works, Chapter 1, the steam engine. What is steam? The mechanical energy of steam, the boiler, the circulation of water in a boiler, the enclosed furnace, the multitubular boiler, fire tube boilers, other types of boilers, aids to combustion, boiler fittings, the safety valve, the water gauge, the steam gauge, the water supply to the boiler. Lock yourself in. You get to hear about all of them. What is steam? If ice be heated above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, its molecules lose their cohesion and move freely round one another. The ice is turned into water. Heat water above 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and the molecules exhibit a violent mutual repulsion, and like dormant bees revived by spring sunshine, separate and dart to and fro. If confined in an airtight vessel, the molecules have their flight curtailed, and beat more and more violently against their prison walls, so that every square inch of the vessel is subjected to a rising pressure. We may compare the action of the steam molecules to that of bullets fired from a machine gun at a plate mounted on a spring. The faster the bullets came, the greater would be the continuous compression of the spring. The mechanical energy of steam. If steam is let into one end of a cylinder behind an airtight but freely moving piston, it will bombard the walls of the cylinder and the piston. And if the united push of the molecules on the one side of the latter is greater than the resistance on the other side opposing its motion, the piston must move. Having thus partly got their liberty, the molecules must become less active and do not rush about so vigorously. The pressure on the piston decreases as it moves, but if the piston were driven back to its original position against the force of the steam, and the molecular activity, that is pressure, would be restored. We are here assuming that no heat has passed through the cylinder or piston and been radiated into the air, for any loss of heat means loss of energy, since heat is energy. The boiler. The combustion of fuel in a furnace causes the walls of the furnace to become hot, which means that the molecules of the substance forming the walls are thrown into violent agitation. If the walls are what are called good conductors of heat, they will transmit the agitation through them to any surrounding substance. In the case of the ordinary house stove, this is the air, which itself is agitated or grows warm. A steam boiler has the furnace walls surrounded by water, and its function is to transmit molecular movement, heat or energy, through the furnace plates to the water unit until the point it's reached when steam is generated. An atmospheric pressure, that is, if not confined in any way, steam would fill 1,610 times the space which its molecules occupied in their watery formation. If we seal up the boiler so that no escape is possible for the steam molecules, their motion becomes more and more rapid, and pressure is developed by their beating on the walls of the boiler. There is theoretically no limit to which the pressure may be raised, provided that sufficient fuel combustion energy is transmitted to the vaporizing water. To raise steam in large quantities, we must employ a fuel which develops great heat in proportion to its weight, is readily procured, and cheap. Coal fulfills all these conditions. Of the 800 million tons mined annually through the world, 400 million tons are burnt in the furnaces of steam boilers. A good boiler must be, number one, strong enough to withstand much higher pressure than that at which it is worked. 2, so designed as to burn its fuel to the greatest advantage. And then, even in the best designed boilers, a large part of the combustion heat passes through the chimney, while further proportion is radiated from the boiler. Professor John Perry considers that this waste amounts, under the best conditions at present obtainable, to 11/12ths of the whole. We have to burn a shilling's worth of coal to capture the energy stored in a pennyworth. Yet the steam engine of today is 3 or 4 times as efficient as the steam engine of 50 years ago. This is due to radical improvements in the design of boilers and of the machinery which converts the heat energy of steam into mechanical motion. Circulation of water in a boiler. If you place a pot filled with water on an open fire and watch to when it boils, you will notice that the water heaves up in the sides and plunges down at the center. This is due to the water being heated most at the sides and therefore being lightest there. The rising steam bubbles also carry it up. On reaching the surface, the bubbles burst, the steam escapes, and the water loses some of its heat and rushes down again to take the place of steam-laden water rising. If the fire is very fierce, steam bubbles may rise from all points at the bottom and impede downward currents. The pot then boils over. Figure 2 shows a method of preventing this trouble. We lower into our pot a vessel of somewhat smaller diameter, with a hole in the bottom, arranged in such a manner as to leave a space between it and the pot all around. The upward currents are then separated entirely from the downward, and the fire can be forced to a very much greater extent than before, without the water boiling over. This very simple arrangement is the basis of many devices for producing free circulation of the water in steam boilers. We can easily follow out the process of development in Figure 3. We see a simple U-tube depending from a vessel of water. Heat is applied to the left leg and a steam circulation at once commences. In order to increase the heat surface, we can extend the heated leg into a long incline, beneath which 3 lamps instead of only 1 are placed. The direction of the circulation is the same, but its rate is increased. A further improvement results from increasing the number of tubes, keeping them all on a slant so that the heated water and steam may rise freely. Still, a lot of the heat gets away. In a steam boiler, the burning fuel is enclosed either by fire, brick, or a water jacket, forming part of the boiler. A water jacket signifies a double coating of metal plates with a space between, which is filled with water. The fire is now enclosed much as it is in a kitchen range, but our boiler must not be so wasteful of the heat as that useful household fixture. On their way to the funnel, the flames and hot gases should act on very large metal or other surface in contact with the water of the boiler in order to give it up and have due proportion of their heat. To save room, boilers which have to make steam very quickly and at high pressure are largely composed of pipes. Such boilers we call multitubular. There are 2 kinds. One, a water tube boiler, in which the water circulates through tubes exposed to the furnace heat. The Babcock and Wilcox boiler is a typical of this variety. Fire tube boilers in which the hot gases pass through tubes surrounded by water. The ordinary locomotive boiler illustrates this form. The Babcock and Wilcox boiler is widely used in mines, power stations, and in modified form on shipboard. It consists of 2 main parts. 1, a drum, H in the upper part of which is steam collects. 2, a group of pipes arranged on the principle illustrated by Figure 5. The boiler is seated on a rectangular frame of fire bricks. At one end is the furnace door, at the other the exit to the chimney. From the furnace, the flames and hot gases rise round the upper end of the sloping tubes into a space, where they play upon the undersurface of H before plunging down again among the tubes into the space. Here the temperature is lower. The arrows indicate further journeys upward into the space on the right side of the fire brick division, and past the down tubes into which the hot gases find an escape into the chimney through the opening. It will be noticed that the greatest heat is brought to bear near the junction with the uptake tubes, that every succeeding passage of the pipes brings the gradually cooling gases near the downtake tubes. The pipes are easily brushed and scraped after the removal of plugs from the headers into which the tube ends are expanded. Other well-known water tube boilers are the Yarrow, Belleville, Stirling, and Thornycroft, all used for driving marine engines. Fire tube boilers. Figure 6 shows a locomotive boiler in section. To the right of the firebox, surrounded on all by a water jacket in direct communication with the barrel of the boiler. The inner shell of the firebox is often made of copper, which withstands the fierce heat better than steel. The outer, like the rest of the boiler, is of steel plates from a 1/2 to 3/4 inch thick. The shell of the jacket are braced together by a large number of rivets, and the top or crown is strengthened by heavy longitudinal girders riveted to it, or is braced to the top by the boiler by long bolts. A large number of fire tubes, only 3 are shown in the diagram for the sake of simplicity, extend from the firebox to the smoke box. The most powerful mammoth American locomotives have 350 or more tubes, which, with the firebox, give 4,000 square feet of surface for the surface heat to act upon. These tubes are expanded at their ends by a special tool into the two plates of the firebox and boiler front. George Stephenson and his predecessors experienced great difficulty in rendering the tube end joints quite watertight, but the invention of the expander has removed this trouble. The fire brick arch in the firebox is used to deflect the flames toward the back of the firebox, so that the hot gases may be retarded somewhat and their combustion rendered more perfect. It also helps to distribute the heat more evenly over the whole of the inside of the box and prevent cold air from flying directly from the firing door of the tubes. In some American and Continental locomotives, the fire brick arch is replaced by a water bridge, which serves the same purpose while giving additional heating surface. The water circulation in a locomotive boiler is upwards at the firebox end, where the heat is most intense, forward along the surface, downward at the smoke box end, backwards along the bottom of the barrel. And we shall pick up later, ladies and gents, with other types of boilers. You'll be on the edge of your seat till then.